Greetings! We begin in the tropical Atlantic, where a storm could form later this week and threaten to enter the Gulf of Mexico, perhaps near Florida, in the middle and latter part of next week. With the genesis of Earl and Fiona earlier this month, it is apparent that the unusually quiet start to the heart of the Atlantic hurricane season has ended, and threats in the coming weeks are almost inevitable. The National Hurricane Center has identified a tropical wave in the central Atlantic Ocean as Invest 98L. Although the next hurricane name will be Gaston, other storms may form further out in the Atlantic before this one is named, so the Gulf threat might be Hermine or even Ian. The Hurricane Center is currently assigning a medium chance of storm formation, 50%, to this disturbance over the next 5 days. They say a tropical depression could form by the latter part of this week as the system moves into the eastern and central Caribbean. Depending on the evolution of the timing and track of the forecast, this could complicate plans to launch next Tuesday for Artemis. The American GFS model overnight showed a major hurricane striking Florida around the 29th, while a new run around noon Tuesday shifted the track slightly west off the west coast of Florida, heading for the Panhandle. The overnight European model was aimed at the Gulf states, somewhat away from Florida. The forecast by Sunday, the date currently set for the launch minus 2-day mission management meeting, will be critical to NASA decision-making. Rollback to the VAB for storm protection will take about 3 days from its current posture, so any threat late next week would need to be factored into a decision to proceed with a launch attempt. Proceeding to the Tuesday attempt would place NASA in the position of needing additional time to detank the rocket and then prepare for rollback if the launch is scrubbed. Of course, the rocket still needs to pass the test of Wednesday's fueling demonstration, and NASA's Flight Termination System waiver request must be approved by the Eastern Range for the attempt on the 27th to be feasible anyway. We need to emphasize strongly that any track and intensity forecast is purely speculative at this time, and there is no official forecast extending out to this time frame. Forecasts this far into the future about developing tropical systems are highly tentative and subject to massive changes in storm strength and track development. Nonetheless, there is growing model consensus that a storm will be an issue for the Gulf Coast or Florida later next week, and NASA will be watching the situation closely. At the opening of the 73rd International Astronautical Congress, or IAC, in Paris, Arianegroup unveiled a fascinating new concept for a European, fully reusable crew and cargo vehicle for launch by the Ariane 6 rocket. It has the charming but unusual name of Susie, for Smart Upper Stage for Innovative Exploration. The concept features vertical landing and resembles the 1990s American DC-X test craft. It is much larger than current human capsules, standing nearly 40 feet tall, with the width of 16.5 feet and a weight of 55,000 pounds. Cargo capacity is rated at 1,400 cubic feet with a cargo weight of 15,000 pounds. European space leaders have been calling for a human launch capability in recent months, and this proposal is designed to garner the support of ESA. A major ministerial conference to determine programs and budgets for the next few years is coming up in November, and this concept may be considered then. Of course, if you are familiar with previous European proposals for crewed spacecraft, you'll remember the failed Hermes spaceplane. Designed by the French Space Agency in the early 1980s, it was like a small space shuttle to be launched on the Ariane 5 rocket. ESA began development in 1987 and hoped to have a test flight around 2002. Repeated delays and cost overruns weakened the already tepid political support for the program, and it was canceled in 1992. Here is our report about Susie.
Arianegroup issued the following description of their Susie concept. Susie is the acronym for Smart Upper Stage for Innovative Exploration. It is an entirely reusable rocket stage project which replaces the launcher fairing, is capable of going into space and carrying out many different types of missions there, whether automated or crewed, and coming back to land on Earth. Susie will be able to fly both on Ariane 64 and on a launcher of the following generation, paving the way for fully reusable launchers of the future. Susie is a flexible, modular, safe and reliable vehicle that will be used to perform essential missions in space, the need for which will increase in the future, whether as an automated freighter and payload transporter, or carrying a crew of up to 5 astronauts. Susie will be entirely reusable and will come back to Earth for a soft touchdown, after a high-precision atmospheric re-entry, offering the greatest possible end-to-end safety for the flight personnel in a crewed mission. Quote, with ESA and the European Commission calling for renewed European ambition for space exploration and crewed flight, and launching initiatives in this area, Arianegroup proposes Susie. Susie is the result of several years of work by our design teams and provides a particularly ingenious solution for future in-space servicing needs and for automated or crewed flight, the demand for which will only grow in the future. This is a project built on all the existing know-how at Arianegroup and within European industry. It is consistent with ongoing or future technological developments in the field of space transport and reuse, unquote, says Morena Bernardini, Head of Strategy and Innovation at Arianegroup. It is our industrial duty to contribute to this ambition and offer European decision-makers smart and ambitious technological solutions capable of contributing to independent access to space, and also to open the door to European space exploration and address commercial and institutional needs for services in space over the coming decades. Susie is extremely flexible and is designed to be able to conduct numerous types of missions in space. Its large-volume internal bay will make it highly adaptable for cargo or payload transport and for crewed flight. Missions made possible by Susie include towing, inspecting and upgrading satellites and other payloads, and supplying fuel, food, and equipment to space stations. It will also be able to carry out crew changeovers and facilitate human in-orbit activities. Further down the line, it will enable the in-orbit construction of large infrastructures, such as manufacturing plants which require microgravity conditions, and transport goods. It will also help reduce orbital debris and assist with removing or deorbiting end-of-life satellites. Susie could bring payloads of more than 7 tons back to Earth. It will contribute to achieving the operational and commercial efficiency needed to develop activities in space. Susie is a fully integrated concept in order to maximize reuse potential and therefore bring down operating costs. In particular, it comprises all mission functions, such as equipment for on-orbit support equipment and for landing or for crew safety. The mission abort safety system covers the entire mission, from liftoff to landing, guaranteeing maximum safety for the crew. Susie is also designed from the outset to be adaptable and respond to future needs or perform new missions. For exploration purposes, Susie will thus be able to carry out long-distance missions, notably to lunar orbit, thanks to its ability to receive a space transfer module, providing propulsion and the energy and air supply needed by the crew. The Susie concept has been designed with a view to be adaptable to different types of future launchers coming into existence over the long term. Initially, it will be launched by Ariane 6, with no modifications needed for the automated freighter version. For crewed flight, a few adaptations to launcher and ground segment will be made. Ariane 6 compatibility was defined in terms of Susie's geometry and its mass, corresponding to Ariane 64's low Earth orbit performance. With no major subsequent modification, Susie could then be used on a future generation of European reusable heavy-lift launchers. Susie is in fact a component of the launcher family project being proposed by Arianegroup and its partners to the European Space Agency for its NESTS, New European Space Transportation Solutions, initiative. This family of reusable, modular launchers is built around common technological building blocks, such as the Prometheus engine, or those developed under the Themis program. It comprises a mini launcher, a medium launcher, and a heavy lift launcher, each being a bigger scale version of the previous one. A super heavy version could be made up of the heavy lift launcher plus 2 reusable liquid propulsion boosters, which are used for the first stage of the mini launcher. These heavy lift launchers will be able to carry Susie, thus paving the way for future entirely reusable European launchers. This vision of the future for Europe's launchers is based on an in-depth study of possible future scenarios and the corresponding space missions. Space transport from Earth to space is today based on a direct point-to-point approach, which involves waste and launchers which differ widely from one another according to the masses to be carried and the destinations to be reached. In the near future, in order to optimize development and operating costs and to be able to carry out the wide variety of future missions, it will be necessary to adopt a networked approach, similar to the current air transport hubs. With this new approach, launchers will serve LEO and a new orbit beyond the Van Allen belts called a parking orbit. From these orbits, other spacecraft would take over and head for the final destinations. Susie aims to be a stakeholder in this future, resilient and scalable space transport system, performing missions in space and bringing goods and humans back to Earth.
The U.S. Space Force has delivered exactly what you needed this week, their official song. So without further ado, here is the just-released Space Force music video.
First of all, we wanted a song that spoke to our guardians, that brought to life our motto, Semper Super, always above. And I got a text from a gentleman named Jamie Teachner. Jamie was a Nashville singer-songwriter and who decided he wanted to give back to his country and joined the Air Force and joined the Air Force Band in Colorado Springs. And he supported us when we were Air Force Space Command. And he wrote this song.
I put together things that from reading, white papers and speaking with General Raymond and Chief Toberman. And so it was quite a long work in progress for a while because I wanted to make sure that everything that was in the song would adequately represent all the capabilities that our Space Force is involved with and make sure I didn't mess up on the mission or the vision of what the Space Force does.
When that song came in, it also needed to be arranged. It needed to have the big musical score like all the other songs of service songs have. And so we reached out to composers that they had worked with. And there was a gentleman named Sean Nelson, who is a member of the Coast Guard band up in Connecticut. And he worked just a masterful arrangement to this song. And it all comes together into something that I hope Guardians around the world will be proud of.
I went for it, and I did what I thought was going to be the most exciting kind of sounds, and it seemed to have worked.
When I heard that, it was kind of the glue that brought all the three pieces, words, music, and the arrangement together. And I thought, we've got something that we can be proud of.
And that's the way space is today. Until tomorrow, ad in explorata toward the unknown in the measureless arena of space. Stay tough and competent, and thanks very much for watching.
Another nasty day on the street, as markets worry about the Wednesday meeting of the Federal Reserve Board. Only 8 of our WSN watchlist companies were higher today, led by Momentus and Astrotech. The big losers of the day were Oceaneering, Planet Labs, and Terran Orbital. Reporting from cyberspace, this is correspondent Karen Calvis.